Hello. Sorry about that. I did think that we were going to have a gremlin-free show, but we didn't. So that's a bit rubbish. That's a bit rubbish. I hope that everybody who's cooking along is okay with the fact that I just kind of like froze, and then I think like Facebook booted me off, essentially. So yeah. So anybody who's cooking along at home, you should have your chocolate broken up into smaller pieces, popped into either a bowl or a jug. I am using a jug today. As I said, it was just kind of like a brainwave that I had yesterday that's just going to make it a little bit easier for me not to end up with a tea towel that's got chocolate on it, basically. So we're just going to melt that, and let's wait for everybody to rejoin us. So, you know. Okay, right. So as I was saying, essentially the two ingredients that you need is the soya cream and the chocolate. So the chocolate is going to be the glue that kind of like sticks everything together. Because chocolate has cacao butter in it, you know, cacao butter is an oil that is, you know, when it's melted it will be liquid, and then when it's chilled, even at room temperature, definitely in the fridge, definitely in the freezer, it will solidify very, 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 very hard. So that's why, you know, the chocolate in this recipe is, you know, so important, because not only does it give, you know, the taste, lovely texture, because it's got the oil, the mouthfeel of it, it's the glue that kind of holds everything together. Okay, so Doug is back, Paul is back, there's quite a few other people here as well, so I hope that it didn't disrupt proceedings too much. Joss says, phew, did I miss anything? Only started melting the chocolate, and now I'm still melting the chocolate, babe. Honestly, this is like one of these recipes that I was like, can I really do this for an hour? so we're still just melting the chocolate, and I'm just dipping it down every now and again. In fact, I'll bring you guys to the overhead camera so that you can see. Hey, there we go. So I'm just using my spoon just to dip that chocolate a bit further down as the stuff at the bottom melts. But do be careful, because the steam that is all around the edge here is, as you would imagine, hot and a bit hurty. There we go. So we're still melting chocolate, guys. I haven't sped ahead or anything like that. So our intermission hasn't really affected us, but I hope that everybody has been able to find the show again. I have to look into what is going on with that. Okay, so if you guys do want to add any flavourings to this, then of course you absolutely can. You know, there's so many flavours and tastes that go with chocolate. You know, you could add coffee to it. That would be really, really delicious. Make it, you know, more kind of like an adult, so, you know, a grown-up's dessert. You could add some orange essence. You know, things like that would be really, really, really lovely with it. Okay, so let me just see if we've got any more comments. I'm glad that you guys have found me again. Doug said we've eaten all the food. Okay. Oh, right, that was what she missed. Okay. Oh, Josh suggested peanut butter. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really, really good suggestion. And I know that it's something that you really, really love. So, yeah, you could definitely put peanut butter in it. Of course, peanut butter, like, it has its own oil as well. So it's actually like a very, very good thing to add. It isn't going to stop it kind of like all holding together at all. So I mean, I guess it depends on how much you add. Joss might be like, yeah, just like, you know, pop the whole thing in. So maybe not the whole jar, maybe not the whole jar. But you know, an alternative as well is that you could make a peanut butter sauce to go with it, which, like a peanut butter caramel. And I know that Justine, because she's been on the chef course with me, I know that she knows how to make a caramel. So you could definitely make a peanut butter caramel to be drizzled on top, which would be amazing. Oh, and Justin also crushed Oreos would be good. Yes, definitely. Oh, and Sue, mint would be yummy. Yes, definitely, definitely. Doug says chili. See, oh, you guys are coming up with your own versions, definitely. Okay, and Doug said it's so cold here. I'm not surprised the feed froze, but I'm exactly. Okay, so this is nearly getting there, And so what we can do is we can put our cream into this bowl and then whisk it if we want to. But the only way that you can really do that is if the bowl that you've melted the chocolate in is big enough. Okay, it does have to be big enough because you need space. So, you know, if the bowl that you've been melting the chocolate in is just big enough for the chocolate, it's not going to happen. So we need a big bowl. And a whisk as well. So it's a lot easier to mix it with a whisk than it is with a big spoon. So just use a whisk like this. I mean, this is just a whisk from an electric whisk. I just like use the part of it. But that's very, very good for this type of recipe. So we've got that to hand already. I'm just going to wait for this to melt. And so a word about the mould that I used. Okay, so oh, Virginia found us again. Oh, she says that she's loving Bo's book. Good. Oh, and Sue Biscoff. Yes, definitely. Okay. Yes, so with the mould that I used, so really beautiful shape of this very, very easy recipe, very dramatic as well. And the mould that I used is this mould. So this is from a company called Chef's Pick. So actually, if I can hold it, there we go. You can see all of the beautiful kind of like geometric shapes on it, which is very, very pretty. And with this recipe, I am freezing it only freeze it if you use a difficult mould like this, because, you know, they can be a little bit tricky to remove the recipe from, the cake from, and to do it perfectly. And that's why I'm going to freeze it. So if you guys are just going to use something like a cake tin, you can just use a cake tin for the chocolate mousse cake today. Because it's just like, you know, a simple round shape, then what I would suggest is that you put baking paper on the bottom of it. And that's, you know, all you'll need to do. You'll be able to get it out really, really easily. And you won't need to put it in the freezer. So it's only if you guys are using, you know, complicated, you know, mold like this, or, you know, we've got one like this as well. Oh, there we go. You can kind of like see that now. I love this one. Really, really love this one. In fact, let me just come to the overhead camera. Actually, the overhead camera's gone today. What's going on? What is going on? Let me see what's happening with the overhead camera. Right, the overhead camera's gone today. Right. Let me see if I can fix that. Talk amongst yourselves. Right, there we go. Let me see if I can get it back online. Yeah, so we've got this one. There we go. You can kind of see that. And we've got this one, which is very, very interesting. So it's from a company called Chef's Pick. So if you are using a difficult mold, then sorry guys, then you will need to freeze it. If you're not using a difficult mold, then you don't need to freeze it. You can just put it in the fridge. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so we've still got a few minutes left for all of this chocolate to melt. It does take a while because there's so much chocolate in there. And with this recipe, you know, I said like 300 grams of dark cooking chocolate because what that means is that, you know, quite often we can just like buy like 2 packs because quite often they're in like 150 grams. So you can just go and buy 2 packs, which is great, which is really, really great. Okay, let me see if I can get this camera working again. Sorry guys, just bear with me a second because I would really like you to see the overhead shot when we can get to it. Okay, right. Oh, we're the wrong way around. Let me just see if I can fix that. Right, okay. Hey, oh, you can see all the mess in our kitchen. Hey, right, okay, let me just see if I can fix this, guys, quickly. Almost there, almost there. We should really be cutting to like advert break. Yay, there we go, back in action, back in action. Okay, right, totally went through the third wall there. So our chocolate is almost done. I'm just lifting the spoon up just to see if there are any lumps, and there are still just a few lumps and bumps. There we go. So we just want to be patient and just make sure that all of them are completely melted. Okay, so as I was saying just before I had the camera issue, you know, if you guys are going to use just something like that, something that's really easy to get your mousse out of, then don't worry about freezing it. Don't worry about freezing it at all. Okay, I don't want you guys to like do an extra step if you don't have to. Now, if you are going to be using a silicone mold, because silicone is, you know, very kind of like rubbery and it's not very stable, basically, we do need to put it on something. So I'm going to just grab a little plate that is just big enough for my mold, and I'm going to sit my mold on the plate. Okay, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to fill this with basically liquid chocolate and then try and take it over to the fridge or freezer, and it's kind of like going like that, and you know what's going to happen is that it's going to go up the edges. We're not going to get a nice crisp line, and also it can be a bit worrying, you know, so we just want to put it on something like either a plate or quite often I use the bottom of a cake tin as well. Anything like that we can use. So just make sure that you've got this ready, because you don't want to fill this and then put it on a plate. We want to put it on the plate first before we fill it. Okay, right, so let's just pop that over there. There we go, so that's all ready. And then we've got our bowl to hand. We've got our whisk as well. Let's see how the handle is doing. So the handle on my jug isn't warm at all. It isn't warm at all. That's really great. And now we've got our cream at the ready. So everything's all ready, because this is going to go really quickly. Right, we're going to have to whisk and whisk and whisk and whisk and whisk very quickly. So let's just see if all of the chocolate is melted. Yep, just about. I'm just going to turn this down and see if we've got any questions. Oh, thank you, George, for sharing the link to Chef's Pick. Just seeing if we've got any more questions. Justine says, if you freeze it, can you eat it sooner? Well, you can just like let this set at room temperature. It will set at room temperature. You can set it in the fridge. That's absolutely fine. But the thing is that if you set it in the fridge and if it's in something like this, then it's going to come out and it's going to be a bit like the edges aren't going to be even. It isn't going to be as pretty. So, you know, it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. Sue Clark said, you can get Biscoff biscuits smushed up into a spread similar to peanut butter and it's vegan. Yes, it's amazing. Amazing. Okay, right. Now, we're just going to mix together the melted chocolate and the cream. So we'll pour our melted chocolate into here, just making sure that I get every little bit that's in there. So now you guys can also see why I wanted to fix that camera, because you know the overhead shot is so important so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, right. So we're going to pour it in and we're going to mix it, and we're going to really mix it in very quickly. Very quickly. So is everybody ready? Okay. Because we are lowering the temperature of the chocolate is going to be thick immediately. It's going to kind of like firm up, but then we're mixing the liquid into it, which is going to make it more liquidy. So it does try and get quite hard, and that's why we need to do it really, really quickly, because, you know, if you think like with our melted chocolate, if melted chocolate gets cold and we don't mix it in, what's going to happen? It's just going to, parts of it is going to go hard. We're going to get bits in our chocolate mousse cake, and we really, really don't want that, because we want this to be really, 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 really smooth. There we go. So right at the beginning, you may have noticed it didn't look like it was really going to mix in well, and then eventually it kind of concedes as long as you keep at it. Okay, and now we can just pour it into our mould. There we go, just make sure that we get all those last bits at the end. But this is a great dish if you like to lick the bowl. Yay. There we go. Okay. Now this will, it will set at room temperature. Okay. But you can put it in the fridge if you want to. It isn't going to affect it, or, you know, it isn't going to come out in a different way or anything like that, depending on whether you let it set at room temperature or whether you let it set in the fridge. Either one is absolutely fine. It's not got any heat to it either, so it doesn't matter if, you know, you put it into the fridge and it's next to something that is a bit like heat sensitive or anything like that. So don't worry about that at all. Now what I do with mine, because I've got this mould that is a little bit difficult to remove a cake from, I let it set at room temperature. So probably like in about an hour or something like that, it will set. It's a little bit wobbly at the moment, I can see, you know, it's still wobbly. That's so much fun to do, honestly. Why is that so much fun? And so I'll let it set for about an hour at room temperature, and then I'll pop it in the freezer. Okay, but as I said, you know, it's only because I'm using these like very complicated, well, they're not complicated, but, you know, it can mean that the pattern doesn't come out so well if the stuff that's in it isn't, like, you know, really solid. And so that's why I put mine in the freezer. But straight from the freezer, the mousse cake is far too hard to eat. So what I do is I let it set at room temperature, and then I put it in the freezer, and as if by magic, here's one I made earlier. Here we go. Okay, and see what I was saying earlier is, you know, quite often I'll use a cake tin. This is, you can see this is quite an old cake tin, just to kind of rest things on. And so this has been in the freezer overnight. And so now I get to the point where I can remove it from the mould, and it's going to come out really, 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 really well. So if I had just put this in the fridge, it wouldn't be as neat when it comes out. Now, most people would be like, I don't really care, it's chocolate mousse, I just want to stuff it in my face. But for me, you know, I do, you know, like to make things like look as pretty as possible, and especially when we've got a lovely mould like this, I want to keep the shape as much as possible. Okay, so now I take it from the freezer and I start just loosening these edges around here. Let me just come to the overhead camera so that I can show you properly. So we don't need to be on this anymore. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So we just go around the edges. And so if it had just been chilled, what would happen is these edges just wouldn't be as crisp at all. One thing that can help you as well is I always have this knife that I use quite often in the kitchen. It's very, 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 very slim, but blunt. It's completely blunt. I think it's like a butter knife. And I can just run that along the edges here, just to make sure that it's a nice and crisp line. Okay, so with a mould like this, once it gets to this stage, then I can start just loosening it and pushing it down. And that's the thing, like with silicone, you know, of course, like pans that aren't silicone won't do this, and this is the beauty of silicone, is that you can just kind of like really push it down and loosen it. But I always go slowly with these things, because you know there's no need to rush or anything like that. Okay, so now I need to get the plate that it's going to end up on. So this is going to be my serving plate. Oh, Doug was guessing it's love hearts under the rainbow. Actually, I should probably show you guys the close-up of this, shouldn't I? Let me just grab it. Here we go. So this was my message to all of you. Valentine's Day. Hey, there we go. This is maybe a bottle of kombucha if you don't drink, okay? That's my message to all of you guys on Valentine's Day. So that was what was underneath the rainbow. Okay, so then we need to get our plate, and I'm going to pop it on to there, and then flip it over. I mean, it's pretty solid, so it's probably not going to go anywhere I don't want it to. And now we can just let gravity kind of help us. So we can just push it down. You can see, you know, the indents here and here. But just let it slowly, slowly, slowly come away from the mould. So we just want to be quite patient with it and let gravity do the work rather than us just kind of yanking it. Yay! Right, there we go. There we go. So it's kept the shape really, really, really well, because we've frozen it. But this isn't a cake that should be served frozen, so we need to let it come to room temperature. We need to let it become a lot kind of like softer, because you should just be able to scoop it out. At the moment, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm going to lift it up and see if I can. That's that sounds rock solid. It's rock solid. There's no way that you're going to be able to eat that at the moment. But you know, it's really kind of like served the purpose in the fact that it's come out the mold really, really, really beautifully well. Okay. So, thank you for everyone saying that they love me too. Ah, Lou's here. I didn't realise that Lou was here. Lou is actually helping me with a really, really, really exciting project. We're redesigning the website, so that's very exciting. She's a very talented graphic designer. And he says, oh, that's so nice. Love you too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so now we've got to this point, and you can, of course, just, you know, have it as it is if you want, but I like to make it look a bit more, oh, there you are. I like to make it look a bit more kind of luxurious. You know, in this like light brown colour, I'm not too big a fan of. So now I am going to dress it with our cocoa powder. So you can either do it actually on the plate that you're going to serve it on, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it off and I'm going to pop it onto this board just while I put the cocoa on it. Okay, and this is a really, oh, sorry, you just got my grey head in the way there. This is a really, really good method if you guys like, you know, dealing with cakes or stuff like that. Two spatulas from either side. Very, very stable way to move a cake or something like that. Okay. So now we just need to scatter our cake with some of the cocoa powder. There we go. And if we do it this way, then it just means that our cake isn't going to get messy or anything like that. you know, if it doesn't really bother you guys, then, you know, just do it on the same plate. But this is a really, really good method of covering up any kind of lumps and bumps. So, you know, if you've taken it out of the mould and it isn't quite as neat as you wanted it to be, then you can really cover it up with the cocoa. And so, you know, if there's like a little bump where maybe, you know, there's been like an air pocket, or you've been using a knife to remove it and you just kind of want to hide that, then just add a bit of extra cocoa to that part. And honestly, it works a treat, because that's what I did with my initial recipe, so the one that you've just seen pictures of. Okay, so there are just a couple of edges here at the bottom that I want to tackle. There we go. Just trying to make it look as perfect as possible, as always. Because, you know, the sides can be quite difficult to get a fine powder onto. I have actually also used pump spray. Pump sprays are very, very handy for these kind of like edges where, you know, you can't scatter onto it. It's just not going to happen. But, you know, this method works really, really well. So we can just pop a little bit of the cocoa onto the board, and then just use our spoon just to make it go up the sides. There we go. So I just want it to be this really, really luxurious, it's almost kind of like a flocked look that it gets, you know, like velour or something like that, which I think just makes the cake look just that little bit more special. And it's a really, really easy thing to do. It's a really, really easy thing to do. Okay, right, nearly done, nearly done. Now I can see that there's a little error there, so I'm just gonna take that off, and then we'll recover. Yay, there we go. See, it hides a lot of things, this cocoa. Okay. Right, there we go. And now we can pop it back onto the plate. Just going to make sure that I've got enough space, because you don't want to be doing this with your elbows like bumping into things at all. Okay. Yay. Okay. Right. So now we can leave it out for about an hour, just so that it gets nice and soft on the inside. At the moment, it will be rock solid. It will be really, really rock solid. And I, you know, if any of you guys have like done like frozen desserts, like, you know, there was a lot of recipes for frozen cheesecakes around a few years ago, and they were very, very nice, but you would have to like really like, you know, hack into it to actually get any off. So it would be a bit like that at the moment. So we're going to leave it for about an hour, and then once the hour's gone, we can get our frozen raspberries. But I'll do that now. Right, there we go. And so I really, really like the combination of the raspberries and the chocolate. You guys can, you know, use strawberries or blueberries or whatever it is that you want to use. Doug said the rainbow has never taken so long to guess. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And oh, Patricia says, would it go also? Sorry. Can you, I think you're essentially saying, can you sprinkle it with raspberry powder? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Do let me know if I've missed any questions, please. Please do just like pop them in the comments now. Okay, so I'm just going to break these up, loosen them a little bit because some of them are stuck to each other. Oh, and I really just, I've noticed something else, a ring. Yes, well, actually, I've had that for a while. I've had that for a while. We did get engaged, a lockdown engagement. So there we go. Might be a while until we get married, as is the case for a lot of people at the moment. So we can just pop these around the edge. And I absolutely love the look of frozen raspberries. They're great to photograph as well. So if any of you guys want to practice your food photography skills, then do try photographing frozen raspberries, because the ice crystals, they just really pop on them. And if you're using something like a DSLR, then they can really like lock into that detail, which is just really, really beautiful, really beautiful. And of course, like the colour's amazing as well, and all of those different textures. Oh, and Paul's mentioned that it's, is it Chinese New Year? Is that what you were talking about? Yes, yes it is, yeah. Okay, there we go. So we just pop all of these around the outside. So I said like 200 grams, but you know, of course, like that depends on the size of your plate. And you could always just serve them alongside as well if you don't want to do this method. But I think that it just makes the plate look a bit more full. It looks a bit more special. And as I said, you know, the sourness and the sweetness of the raspberries really matches well with the richness of the dessert. There we go. Okay, so how easy was that? I mean, I say like, you know, like the recipe's easy. Today's show hasn't been easy. There we go. So we're just gonna let this rest for about an hour, and then it's done, and then we can serve it. And voila. I mean, how easy? Like 4 ingredients. Simple, 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 simple. Okay, right, guys. What a show! What a show. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh, Doug says, don't get married until we're allowed to come, please. You guys are all coming, right? Okay, that's that's going to be like our big get-together. I'm so kind of like dreaming of like what get-togethers we're going to do once all this is over. Okay, so there we go, guys. Trying not to make this fall everywhere. How's that for a 4 ingredient, uncomplicated recipe on a very complicated show? So, how easy is that? So guys, if you have cooked along at home, then please do let me know. Please do put pictures into the community hub, because of course I would always really like to see what you have made, how it's come out. Let me know if you've had any problems at all. And oh yeah, if you can take a picture of you with the actual recipe, then that would be absolutely fantastic, because I love seeing your smiling faces. And how proud you are of the dishes that you made. Oh, Linda says it looks very pretty. It does. And Karen says it looks amazing. And Sue as well. And Patricia, thank you. And Elizabeth, it does. I mean, the thing is, like, it is such an easy dish. It is such an easy dish. But, I mean, I could imagine having something like this, you know, served to me at like a fancy restaurant in Soho. And it would be very expensive. So, you know, I think it just goes to show that the recipe doesn't have to be complicated or very long or anything like that. It just needs to be tasty. The flavours need to match together very well. And you can cheat by using, you know, really great products like these moulds. And they look very, you know, it looks very pretty. It looks very handsome, very handsome. Okay, Doug said you are so funny, made me smile on a sad day. Oh, we need to talk on the phone, because we totally didn't manage to do that the other day. So let's do that, definitely. Sophie says, I just got laughed at by my boyfriend for having chocolate all over my face. Quality, I love it. Never grow up. Never ever grow up. Keep doing stuff like that, please. George says, thank you, Chef Day. Paul says the feed stopped temporarily early on. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And honestly, Facebook keeps doing this thing to me where it tells me that the video has stopped, but it actually hasn't stopped. So I actually carried on thinking so, but I'm glad that you all came back. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Annie says, shame I don't have anyone to share it with. Oh well, I'll have to eat it with my son. Yeah, you do. I think that Valentine's Day, it doesn't have to just be about romantic love and having a partner. It could be about love for each other and everyone and animals and the planet and everything like that. So it's just kind of like a celebration of love today. Let's just seeing if you've got any more questions today, and I think that's it. So please join me next week where we will be making cheese on toast together, and it is a cheese that we're going to make from scratch, and we're not just kind of like taking it out of a packet and then putting it on the grill. It's going to be a bit more complicated than that. So please do join me for that next week. Thank you for bearing with me today on a very, very, very funny show. I'll see you next week. Have a lovely day.